Hello everyone, this is Ragnar once again, and I've cooled down significantly after the last recording session. However, it really just highlighted all of my grievances with this mod, and I just cannot find sufficient joy in
Yes.
recording live commentary of this thing to keep that format up, at least for this Let's Play. So right now I'm just showing you a little bit of a display of a mugging spree that my character went into once I got sufficient presence and coercion.
Yeah, I guess I would.
I honestly, my feelings toward this kind of skill set have changed dramatically since the beginning of this Let's Play. Because usually I very much enjoy playing social characters, and the integration of this discipline with how intimidation and seduction work really appealed to me. But in the end, there are other abilities and disciplines that give you so much more for so much less than this. For example, auspex and hacking and inspection, perception, that's just basically the master combo of this game. Because auspex gives you more perception, which boosts your, well, your spotting ability to find hidden items for free. It boosts your wits so that you can defend yourself better, you can nullify or avoid damage altogether, way past the cap, so you're almost invulnerable most of the time.
What do you want?
At least by the end of the game. And it also, in this mod at least, improves your intelligence, which directly influences hacking. So already so much is given to you, both for combat and for finding items and exploration. Meanwhile, presence,
Don't you come near me!
it works like in reverse, because auspex only influences yourself. You buff yourself up so that you become more functional in combat, while presence is supposed to debuff everyone around you, which should have the same net gain. However, it really doesn't overall. When you compare the full package of each side, presence is kind of dismissible. At the time of recording, I have already finished the entire playthrough because I just really wanted to get this done, just get it all out of my system,
Isn't this fair?
not linger on anything. As you can see, I'm kind of just
Oh, yes.
going right past the dialogue options here with Vivi, which partly has to do with the fact that I don't really like her.
The reason I
I
asked
really don't. But I'm also trying to be less roleplay this time. I had a blast when I had the chance to roleplay a little in the previous episode. But really, the mod just crushed my soul too much. I'll have to reserve that roleplaying energy for other playthroughs, because some of you actually have showed interest in watching me play just the unofficial patch as one of the normal clans, or at the very least the clan quest mod.
you'd really be willing to do this for me.
So there's a lot less necessity to min-max under those circumstances, and consequently a lot more room for me to roleplay and just, you know, be less task-oriented and
Sin bin now.
kind of stop and smell the flowers, figuratively speaking. Which is something that is very precious in games that I feel is very easy to miss. Especially for me, because I can be kind of obsessive when I get into certain activities. So everything easily becomes just a to-do list. I get laser focused, I ignore everything else around me, and I miss out on so much that the game has to offer. And usually it takes something really cosmic for a game to snap me out of that.
Welcome back, young king. Choose wisely.
So for a mod like this that is essentially mechanical, it is there to provide a mechanical challenge and little else, because to be completely honest, the quest related additions, the roleplay flavorings that were added for this mod do not appeal to me by much. Akeem is interesting enough, but I don't really dig Jimmy Reed, the unseen NPC that sells you skill books in Santa Monica. Didn't feel like it added much. Sylvia Black could be completely removed from the game and nothing would change, because she just drops in. She's this character, this human character that should not know those things but does, and then we never see her again. Nothing else is done with her. We get a very pointless quest that involves us losing humanity by default, and there, I get so pissed off when I'm feeding in this little alleyway and someone just creeps up from the corner and I get another masquerade violation. So yeah, overall, on the roleplay side, this mod is not good, and the mechanical side just adds frustration rather than challenge. It lacks a bit of gaming sense, because as I was raging in the end of the former episode, there's a lot of lack of respect for the player's time, a lot of mechanics and details that force you to waste your time. And you constantly find yourself thinking, why am I doing this if this doesn't feel fun? Because challenge, even, I know that in several games, higher difficulty settings are a thing, but difficulty only adds to fun and entertainment if there's a sense of balance and fairness to it. Because, yeah, you suffer a little bit more, but if the payoff is good enough, then it provides a good cycle. I didn't feel that at all for this game, especially with this character, because as it turns out, Daimonian is a very terrible discipline, at least in the way it was implemented here. So many of the abilities are pretty useless, and the level 5 ability is so strangely focused on turning you into an unarmed build that really there's not much point in working towards that. And the powers you get along the way are so inconsistent. They blatantly go against what the description says. They're very bad against mortals and inexplicably good against supernaturals. And then the disciplines you're left with are Obfuscate, which Obfuscate I only ever take to the second point with any character I make, even a Nosferatu, because the only advantage that you get from higher levels of Obfuscate is a greater duration and the ability to continue invisible and inaudible without crouching, which only really serves as a quality of life thing to not have to be so slow while invisible, which as a Nosferatu can be very good. And especially as a Samidi in this game, because the game is a lot less forgiving with this mod in terms of people seeing your disfigured form and incurring a criminal or masquerade violation. And here is a little strange addition to this quest with the vampire hunter that is masquerading as a stripper. The Final Nights mod adds these other hunters that are just loitering around this place, and I think it's a bit of a cheap shot to add them here, because Velvet Velour only tells you about the one hunter, about Chastity herself. So when you come here and find these two additional hunters, that just being detected by them completely blows your cover, it ruins the quest, it causes a firefight to begin, innocents are caught in the middle, and then Velvet's disposition towards you drastically decreases. So a bit of a cheap shot there. There should have been a bit more of a forewarning about them here. There should be more of a justification for these people being here, because Chastity was already here in disguise. Why are these two completely random, not disguised hunters here? Why would, what's the name of the guy? Why would Flynn allow these two guys to be here? So just a difficulty being increased without, just for the sake of it. So here I'm preparing. This is the reason why you saw me before increasing my melee skill and buying skill books for that, and just getting myself on this level, because my disciplines are just not good against Chastity. So all I had to do to be able to finish this part of the quest, both with a measure of discretion and effectivity, was to become better at melee and just using presence to even the odds, to bring her down to my level, essentially. It seems to have worked all right. I had increased the blood buff to the second level, so it basically got to the point that it works as intended in the original game, buffing all of your physical attributes by 2 points instead of just 1. I always quick save before starting any dialogue, because you'll never know what dialogue option has been changed so that you unknowingly stuff your foot into your own mouth. And here's how you know that you completed this quest to her desires, because if you use certain disciplines or just firearms at all when fighting Chastity, that creates noise and makes a commotion that she did not want. So yeah, the best way to go about it is just going melee, blood buffing your way through it. And that takes a lot of EXP to pull off. But really, I had already used console commands to remove all the points I had devoted to Daimonian, because like hell I would ever trust that discipline with anything again. Even Conflagration, even though it really pulled through in my fight against the Gargoyle, it simply was not enough to counterbalance the frustration I went through in every other circumstance. That section, the sewers with the vampire hunters, was pure hell. You just have to default to the master strategy of being a marksman.
You do? Man, that's fantastic. I really can't talk. Okay.
So yeah, being a social character helps in segments like this, but not much has changed here. Actually, nothing has changed with regards to this part of the quest. To getting the screenplay from this dude and getting the name of his contact from him, and here's the room we're supposed to go to in order to, you know, find the second part of the tape. This is just me looking for the... Yeah, just continuing the serial killer side quest. Which, in retrospect, maybe I actually brought this up before. We don't actually have any motivation to keep looking into it. Nobody told us to look into it. It's not as if the prince put out a bounty for whoever brings in this serial killer, dead or alive. You're just going into it for your pure curiosity. Here, is a moment when I kinda have to go against the character because my humanity is just too low right now. So I need to use any opportunity to get it back to at least 5. Because dancing, if you remember, does not increase a BAALI's humanity. You need to either get humanity by dialogue choices or spending experience points. And like hell, I'm gonna waste precious experience points for that. However, a little thing that was added for this mod is that letting Julius go actually incurs a masquerade violation. As you can see my surprise over here, like where did this third strike come from? And I start getting worried, like, great, now there's gonna be more hunters after me. And sadly, I did not really show much of my encounters with the hunters here because they're just very stupid and clunky in the way they're implemented. They appear in more than just a few alleys. They actually attack you in the middle of the street, which just kind of shows that those characters are not very good, morally speaking, if they're willing to get innocents caught in the crossfire. And for the next couple of minutes, I'll be visiting some old places in Santa Monica, now that I have higher skills to pick locks to get money. And I was actually surprised to find those thugs still here alive, especially after Mercurio said in dialogue that he had killed all of them by himself after he recovered. That was actually a badass moment from him when I heard about it, that he actually kneecapped all of them, forced them to take so much of their own drugs that they all died of an overdose. That's brutal. But then I come back and here they are, and Mercurio, why must you lie to me? I thought we had a thing going on. You don't have to lie to me to earn my respect. So yeah, those chests actually give a very generous amount of money compared to what some computers will give you through hacking. So here I am thinking, should I kill those guys in order to grab the stereo that was on top of the table on the kitchen? Because as soon as you grab it, you're gonna get out of obfuscate and everybody becomes aware of your presence. So I figured, I'm strong enough, it's not gonna matter if they shoot me, so I'm just gonna go balls out and drain this guy dry, even though it's gonna take a while because he has a surprising amount of blood in him. I suppose working with a drug business actually gives you a way more comfortable lifestyle than one would think, despite the rather squalid state of this little house. You'll see me using very subpar guns for a while still, because I was still kind of trying to find my ideal arsenal. As you can see, my defense level is high enough. I was saving this guy Brian for last because I always get so angry that I try to, in other playthroughs, I try to seduce my way through and he just gets freaked out, and you know what, I'm gonna save it for last. Every time I start killing people inside that drug den, I think Daddy always gets a taste in the end. So here I go straight to the final hideout of the serial killer. I was surprised to actually see that there is a chest there for us to lockpick, so a nice bonus there. At least we get some money out of it. And I've gone through this little section so many times and I know exactly which way the cars are gonna fall. But considering the clunkiness of the engine, there are several ways in which this can become annoying. Sometimes it can all end up in such a way that either the cars don't become a barrier at all, or you're stuck in narrow spaces like this, There have been some times where I actually had to use console commands to remove collision so that I could just phase through, because those cars just fell in some weird way and there was no way for me to pass through or around or over. And I always save before actually having the confrontation with him, because if I regret any decision I make, or if I die in a fight with him, I don't want to go through that whole gauntlet of exploding cars again.
No! Back off, vampire! Stay the fuck back! I did nothing to you! What the hell do you care?
A very poignant question. Why do we care? Just blind devotion to the Camarillo's laws, to the masquerade. There's no reward to this. We don't gain any clout for doing this.
Revenge, justice, whatever you want to call it.
Just pure curiosity. There's so much stuff
Butchering those bastards was the
in this
first time I
game
felt anything since
that the protagonist does
I'm sure there are others
just because.
crimes have gone unpunished.
Which is very strange, considering that everything around you teaches you to never do anything for free, to always call in favors, to always get people indebted to you, because it is a very cutthroat society. Here, at first, I took the route of persuading him to stop his grisly murders, appealing to his conscience, which makes no sense for a BAALI, but then I try to rationalize, it's if he keeps killing people like this just randomly, it might be a short burst of evil into the world, but he'll just eventually get caught and executed. But then I remembered, I don't actually get a masquerade redemption if I don't kill him. So I loaded back to this section and I decided I'm not gonna persuade him. I'm just gonna bite the bullet and face him in combat, even though I'm very much not well built for this kind of solution. I even had to buy this monstrosity of a gun to even the odds, and here is the only point where I actually remember to crouch to kind of avoid this guy's attacks. Thank you, Something Compass. You're awesome for so kindly reminding me to do that in the comments. This trick is your trick. I take no ownership of this.
Look who's back. Please, call me Vivi.
Oh yeah, and apparently you can actually lose disposition with Vivi
Thanks.
if you call her by a more intimate name than she actually
Can't you tell?
allowed you
I
to.
simply adore you.
Let's
You're so
say
sweet to me. The way you
if you were on the just velvet level and you go ahead and call her Vivi, and she gets pissed off, and it might even bump you down right there and there. It's Miss Valor to you. She's way harder to please in this mod, which just made me angrier at her. Here we are, finally going to the DMP headquarters in order to get the second tape. And I'm not really being careful with the headrunners here because I just want to get this done. I don't want to waste time being cautious and avoiding every bit of damage. Whatever they do to me, I can survive it. Whatever blood I lose here, I can just recover outside. I will pay a sex worker to walk with me to an alley for me to feed on her. I don't care, because my bartering skills are already so good that one go with one of the sex workers is just $10, and that's barely a blip on the radar at this point. Very strange little bug there. And then he dies anyway. So here I was happily thinking, oh, maybe I can actually lockpick this door. But alas, when I saw it was level 10 difficulty, I was, nah, even with blood buff and removing my armor, I will not be able to make that check. Spoiler alert, I don't actually get level 10 lockpicking in this run. Because the experience point economy does not allow it. I do get pretty high though on lockpicking, surprisingly so. Considering what I sacrificed, I just basically put everything into presence in terms of disciplines.
Dad, everyone's... Yeah, I know, but we didn't make...
And that's what made me disappointed, because presence is an amazing discipline in most of the ways it is implemented. Again, I like the whole thing with you exuding this aura that debuffs enemies, with this possibility of actually taking some of them out of the fight for a bit. They get mesmerized and don't attack for a while. It's decent crowd control and makes enemies attack less often and not hit as hard. But when it's the only thing you have, it becomes less interesting, less valuable. Compare this to my not recorded playthrough with a follower of Set, because I had actually pushed my Serpentis discipline to the 3rd level, where I actually turn into a reptilian monster. So that already gives me a bit of a unique kind of playstyle when fighting. Not a big fan of unarmed strikes because they have horrible reach and the animation is so slow and clunky. It locks you into this incredibly self-harming spin that exposes you to enemies more than helps you with anything. But that's something I was able to circumvent. You just have a bit of a 1-2 combo. One punch, second punch, and you stop, so that the 3rd strike that causes you to spin doesn't get put in. So just 1-2 pause, 1-2 pause, and that lets you do decently. So when you're in that reptilian form as a follower of Set, you get more strength. I believe you get a little tougher. You resist damage a little more, which is important considering that the clan's weakness in this game is having reduced soak feats. Don't know if that's overall or when just in areas of great illumination, which is very hard to keep track of because you only get to see the luminosity levels of where you're standing if you're sneaking, so that's a thing. So yeah, when you are in a monstrous form and then you pop presence, that's way more they're more interesting. It actually synergizes more. Because you buffed yourself as a monster. You're big and scary, and you make everyone else around you less effective, so that's nice. I barely even used potence because, again, drip feed of experience points. You're not supposed to spread out too much. I only started to invest into potence very much later into the game, where you're like, I'm not gonna need any of the utility stuff anymore. I'm just gonna become a combat monster. Here I am again, just using the sword because I don't want to waste ammunition. I'm just crouching like something Compass Sensei taught us. They might still catch you when you're crouching, but the chances are lower of them actually landing the hit. Especially with those very strange leaping attacks they make. They can be on freaking China. They reach you immediately. So I decided two can play this game, so I just did leaping attacks of my own. So that's just me here, just trying to mix effectiveness on one end with just trying to have some sort of satisfaction on another. Like, yeah, I'm not wasting bullets, but I'm wasting movements with those leaping attacks of my own just to prove a point or get some petty kind of vindication. And here's the thing, I know that this house, Andrei's house here, with the walls covered in flesh, are it's supposed to be disturbing and stuff, but I don't know. It looks so pedestrian. Just, yeah, the wallpaper is human skin and there's some random bones sticking out. Andrei, where is your aesthetic sense? I thought your clan was supposed to make an art out of this flesh crafting discipline. What is this tacky decoration? You certainly had the time. You certainly had the time to do better.
Not too much for the... Now.
Yeah, not much difference with the interactions with him here. Because I don't know if... Yeah, I don't think a BAALI would have much interest in joining the Sabbat, because the Sabbat hate the BAALI as well. So just sticking with my very thinly veiled disguise as a Tremere, that, again, in character, I very much doubt that Strauss would actually fall for. But once again, the role-playing of this mod is very weak. Pretty weak, bro. So I was hoping that... The guns in general have been destroyed in this mod. The firing rate of most of them is horrible. You might remember that when you're using the Spaz in the unofficial patch, it shreds through Andrei's health bar, but here, the damage and the fire rate is butchered to the point that I had to try to spam him several times before I actually downed him. So yeah, I just grabbed the clipboard and just scrolled kinda slowly so that if you're interested you can read, but then I gave up. Like, who is this for? Who does this serve? If you're watching me play the Final Nights, you've seen all of this, so I'm just dropping some of the junk in my inventory because I constantly forget to put it away in my haven. And thus the sewer hell begins. I cannot tell you how I survived this run as an unarmed follower of Set build. I don't know how I did it. I don't know if the hand of God himself reached down and gave me the strength to do it. But I did, and I wish I had recorded it because that was the thing that JT Corpse wanted to see. Because his request to see me do that is what caused me to begin this Let's Play at all. And my expectation to have level 5 Daimonian at this point, to be unarmed, to go through the sewer section, was one of the things that made me want to start this thing. But here we are. Daimonian has been scrapped, completely dismissed as a waste of experience points, a doomed and butchered discipline, and I'm just using a very suboptimal gun build. Like, I'm just trying to make the best out of a bad situation. There's nothing I have here in terms of vampire powers that boosts my marksmanship. No auspex to increase my perception and wits. No celerity to make me so fast that I can just dance through enemies while shooting them with impunity. Just presence to make everyone else half as bad at fighting as I am. That was a complaint I had before when I had my Assamite, because as overpowered as you can become just with auspex, I don't like the idea of being a mono-disciplined vampire. I played an Assamite to be an Assamite, to use Quietus to some extent, not to be just an Auspex vampire. But here I am a presence vampire now, with Obfuscate on the side, just to not say you don't have anything else. And as you've seen in my previous episode, it failed me. Because random-ass vampire hunters are gifted with True Sight, which I might have mentioned as a thing when I was fighting Bishop Vic. Using Obfuscate against Bishop Vic is useless because the game coding gives him True Sight, meaning he knows where you are, even if you're obfuscated, even if you're sneaking. And then just ground troops of the goddamn Society of Leopold just have that, because that's freaking fair. There's not much I can say about these parts of the sewers, because if you've seen a sewer run, you've seen them all. Unless something very different is being done about them. For example, being unarmed, maybe as a gangrel or a follower of Set that actually uses Serpentis. Because I vaguely remember something Compass's run as a follower of Set in a previous build of the Final Nights. Before the disciplines were switched around, like some of the player clans used to be vanilla in the sense of, oh, just a mainline clan, like. The follower of Set actually had Serpentis, Presence, and Obfuscate. But then, in the more recent versions, it got changed around. Like, you're no longer just a warrior cast Assamite, you're a Vizier Assamite. So that instead of Obfuscate and Celerity, in addition with Quietus, you have Auspex and Celerity. So yeah, that was back then. That was how something Compass's run was, and the only parts of Serpentis he actually used were the first, second, actually I think just the first and second abilities, because the first was Eyes of the Serpent, which is borderline broken, because it is a very strong trance that is used both in and out of dialogue. Kind of like Dominate. It trances people so that you can sneak by them, stops them in combat so that it serves as crowd control. And it doesn't even cost blood to use. That is phenomenal. Yeah, contrast with the first level ability we get for Daimonian. No, I'm never gonna let that go. I'm never gonna let that go. And then on the second level, you get Breathe the Sandstorm, which is Conflagration on freaking steroids. If it doesn't damage sufficiently, because apparently damage scales differently for those disciplines depending on what enemy is receiving them, the paralysis it induces on even strong enemies is incredible. So with just 2 points on Serpentis, you have your build made. You have crazy crowd control and damage. You can essentially make a very efficient gun build, which, I'm sorry, something Compass, I didn't watch the entirety of that run, but I remember that you were playing it, the parts at least that I've seen you play, were very much like that. You were playing kind of like a Ventru in that sense. A Ventru that has Obfuscate. You're just trancing people to stop them, to make sneaking easier, to shoot them with impunity, doing the crouch and shoot tactic. Okay, so this is one part of the sewers that I actually am proud of, because even though I detest this part of the game with a passion, I have this pump control run to an art. Even though I got zapped here, I have perfected when to jump, where to jump from, in order to swim all the way to the end of this canal without getting pushed back. So there we go. Didn't even get the little moment where the water is already pushing you away, so you're slowing down. Hey, I do one or two things right sometimes. Yeah, not a big fan. I really don't like the parts of the game that force you to be a fighter. I already don't like it when that's how it ends up in the finale, when you have to essentially kill your way through the Kuei-jin Temple and then do so again through LaCroix's skyscraper. Because up until then, the game had been so great about giving you multiple ways to solve problems. You talk your way through, you sneak your way through, you hack into computers to get information that you were unable to get from a person. And if all else fails, or if you just feel particularly murderous, you just kill, just fight. I don't like it when it gets narrowed down to, hey, badass vampire, bang bang, slash slash, I'm a combat monster now. Yes, I like being strong and competent in combat, but this is not what brought me to this game. Could have made the entirety of the final act just trying to find maybe less of a me against the world kind of experience, like a shower of bullets, just Matrix stuff, and more a small scale mission, like I need to sneak into this building to get this vital evidence to clean my name, to prove to the community at large that I did not betray LaCroix, that Nines Rodriguez is alive, or maybe just Nines got captured after fighting the werewolf, and then you have to rescue him. But absolutely not going into full-out 1 versus 100 warfare. I know this game doesn't try to be completely faithful to the tabletop, but if this was your first induction into Vampire the Masquerade and you ask a tabletop veteran if this 1 versus 100 scenario is something that can happen in a Chronicle, they'll just laugh. That is not something that is doable. Because even if your character is very old and powerful, his rivals are also likely going to be very old and powerful. So no, you're not gonna play Vampire Dynasty Warriors. I mean, you could, if that's what you want at your table. I'm not sure how satisfying that would be in a tabletop RPG scenario, but if you can do it, and if that would satisfy you, by all means do it. I'm just trying to draw a comparison here of how absurd this can become, especially when this was not something you were expecting or wanting from your experience. Yeah, just more of me rambling here, because there's nothing new to do in those sewers. Just me shooting and slashing through headrunners in the sewers, doing stuff you probably saw done the exact same way before, or at the very least more efficiently, by way better players than I. Yeah, this shotgun was a mistake. Spaz was good in the vanilla and the unofficial patch, but everything's changed when the Final Knights attacked. I'm basically hurting myself to use this thing. Like, I paid good money for this, it better be good. It finished this thing off very quickly, but if I had been a better marksmanship build, just with the Patria, I would have done even better with way less risk to myself. You're gonna see later on when I face more of these spider-like flesh-crafted monsters, that the firing rate of the spaz in this mod just puts me in so much danger from those creatures. And they deal aggravated damage, because what doesn't give aggravated damage in this game? So me just doing some sewer parkour. Look at me go. I get so angry sometimes because it's very slippery. The game's movement in general is very slippery. But I dug into the coding with a tip from another YouTuber who's currently doing Bloodlines run of his own, Gopher. Go check him out. He's very funny because he actually roleplays and reacts to the bizarre happenings of the game in real time. So he's basically reacting freshly to things that I'm just too jaded and experienced with the game to do. Like, hey, so this is what happens here, this is what happens there. Oops, I was wrong about what happens there. Small technicality. Really, the biggest reactions I got from this game was my rage at the mod's changes and the character I ended up being stuck with. My demon boy is just not as strong as I was hoping he would become. So here is possibly one of the times where the shotgun was almost my undoing. Or maybe it was one of... There we go. Sometimes this creature gets stuck. Yeah, so this is not the time where I get punished for my horrible firing rate, but you'll see it eventually. Oh, every time I eat a rat here in this section, I cannot help but think of how horrible it would be to get through the sewers with a clan that had the Ventru clan weakness. Imagine getting through this mod without being able to feed on the rats. I mean, I have the Odious Chalice and I have some blood bags. I don't remember exactly how many at this point, but wow, that would be nerve-wracking. So there we go, the firing rate was so bad that this creature actually landed a good hit on me. Well, not that good of a hit, but it is aggravated, so any aggravated damage is going to be inconvenient. And again, the reason why the complete disconnect between regenerating health while feeding is a problem. More wasting time, because normally if you eat a rat, you get a single point of blood and a small bit of health back, which is good because you don't want to be stuck in that cycle of feeding and then pushing blood heal and waiting for the health bar to slowly get back up. If there is already a slow regeneration, a slow passive regeneration, then you would expect the actual active healing to be quick. Okay, you spent 1 blood point now, so it should give you that chunk of health back immediately. One descends at the same rate the other ascends. That's not what happens here. Then again, that is a flaw in the unofficial patch, because blood heal was very much not a thing that was present in the vanilla game. You only healed up either with the passive regeneration or from feeding, either from an enemy, from rats, or from a blood bag. They added blood heal in the unofficial patch just as an aid. But it's still not super efficient, again, because of the bizarre duration it takes for the health to come back. You can actually regain a point of humanity here in the unofficial patch if you actually kill these two monsters before they kill the Nosferatu, but clearly they're so strong that I didn't even have a chance. And here I am finally using the Patria. I decided, you know, screw the spaz. I'm just gonna do as something Compass Sensei taught us and block it with the Patria. That's all you need. I'm no Auspex master, but I can absolutely make this work. See? Do you see how way more effective that was? You just train yourself to resist the recoil, and if the enemy is a big enough target, you don't even need to worry about the spreading of the shots. And here I'm just vibrating in excitement because, yay, a rat! Awesome! That really is the key to enjoying your food. Starvation. Get so hungry that any food is going to be good food for you. And here I just obfuscated because I knew there was another monster awaiting around the corner somewhere. It patrols around and I did not want another fight. I would rather just sneak past, get this agony over with. Actually, the first time I actually played through the entirety of the sewers, I got to this area here, but I had not taken the tunnel where you find the key card to unlock this hatch. So I just had to wander aimlessly around the sewers looking, where is the key card? Where is the key card? Why would you make it be just randomly located in a place that I have no indication that it is the place I'm supposed to look for? Not even a journal entry lying around in this part just saying, oh, the manager or whatever took the key card while he was checking something in tunnel 46 or something. No, just go around aimlessly without any indication until you find it. So here we are finally in the Nosferatu Warrens, and you might notice that I'm already looking for not Gary's, Bertram Tong's little data CD ahead of time because I don't want to have to come back down here again just to look for it. And again, the stupid high difficulty of inspection for an object to even spawn for you to grab is ridiculous, and I did not want to permanently invest any more experience points into inspection, so I just cheated to give myself some temporary investigation so that I could just grab the goddamn data CD and then give those points away again. Don't want to have to suffer through this goddamn garbage. It's a quest item, guys. That should not be locked away past an inspection difficulty. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Here I get stuck, so I had to use the console commands to unstuck myself. Oh, Bloodlines. Oh, Bloodlines, you special game. Just charming enough that we forgive your breakages, especially considering the circumstances that surrounded the release. This is the kind of forgiveness I do not afford games like Skyrim. Skyrim, Bethesda is doing just fine, and it has done just fine for several years. Probably way finer than it actually deserves. Todd. freaking 10-year-old game re-released across several platforms with decade-old bugs. What have they been doing all this time? So yeah, that's forgiveness I do not extend to the likes of Bethesda, but I do for this game. And I can only congratulate the modders that actually devote time to fixing what they can and doing additions of their own. But of course, they are not exempt of criticism, as you might be well aware at this point, with all of the myriad complaints I've made about the Final Nights. Yeah, and there's this breakage here that apparently nobody has been able to fix, where, for whatever reason, even if you try to position yourself right behind Amalia, when you try to talk to her, you are moved to a different spot, so she's not looking your way. So it doesn't even give you the dignity of looking her in the eye.
By the clack smack.
More of me just skipping through dialogue because you've seen this before. You've all seen this before. I don't want to extend my suffering. I could be drawing. I could be working on commissions, but I'm doing this. And I'm not blaming the viewers because, again, there's like 3 of you. It's more like that whole thing, my obsession with turning things into a to-do list, and I will not feel okay until I get this done. So even though this entire Let's Play became something less fun, more agonizing, I thought, I need to finish this. I need to finish this. I don't want to leave this undone. There's people that's going to be expecting this, and I won't feel good leaving this a loose end. So here's where the Nosferatu picture comes into play. If you have it on your person, you essentially extort Gary for an occult item.
Let's see what I got here.
I actually don't remember what it does. Oh yeah, I remember now what it does. It is the band of sustenance. Essentially, it reduces the rate of blood loss. Again, every roughly 4 minutes, you lose a point of blood. That's a thing they added. So yeah, that's the end of the sewer hell. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and see you next episode. Bye-bye.